The motel room in Nevada that drove guests insane, true horror story. Some places don't frighten people immediately. They wait. They allow rest, comfort, even sleep, until something inside begins to shift. This is not a story about thrill seekers or paranormal tourism. It's about an ordinary motel room in Nevada that passed inspections, took reservations, and slowly destroyed the minds of those required to stay inside it. And how long it took for anyone to admit the pattern. The Silvercrest Motel sat off a 2-lane highway outside Ely, Nevada, far enough from the town center that travelers only stopped there when they had no better option. It wasn't abandoned, wasn't famous, and had never appeared in guidebooks. Its sign flickered occasionally, not ominously but inconveniently, the result of wiring that management never prioritized fixing. The building itself was low and rectangular, with doors that opened directly to the outside and curtains that had faded unevenly from decades of desert sun. Room 27 was not different in any way that guests noticed at first. It faced the parking lot like the others. It had a single bed, a small bathroom, a television bolted into a corner, and a wall-mounted air conditioner that rattled when running too long. The carpet showed where near the doorway. The ceiling had been patched once, the texture uneven where repairs had been rushed. No strange symbols. No unusual layout. Nothing that would cause concern. Which was why it took years for anyone to notice what Room 27 did to people. The first documented incident occurred in late 2014, though it was not treated as an incident at the time. A man named Harold Denton checked in alone after his truck overheated on the highway. He was 56, retired, and traveling cross-country to visit his sister. He stayed 2 nights. When he checked out, the clerk noted that he appeared exhausted, unfocused, and repeatedly asked whether he had paid already. 2 days later, local police found Harold wandering several miles from the motel, barefoot, dehydrated, and confused. He could not explain how he got there. He did not remember leaving the motel. Doctors attributed his condition to heat exhaustion and stress. The motel never heard from him again. Over the next 18 months, similar situations occurred quietly. A couple argued intensely in the parking lot after staying 1 night in room 27 and left before dawn, abandoning luggage. A woman called the front desk repeatedly throughout the night complaining that the walls were shifting. A construction worker missed a job site after oversleeping for nearly 20 hours straight, later claiming he had not slept at all. Each incident, taken alone, seemed unremarkable. What tied them together was not immediately visible. In early 2017, the motel hired a new night manager named Daniel Price. He was 34, recently divorced, and needed a job that did not require relocation. The Silvercrest paid poorly but steadily. Daniel worked 6 nights a week, handling late check-ins, maintenance calls, and paperwork. Daniel noticed room 27 early, not because of anything supernatural, but because guests assigned to it generated more complaints than others. The complaints were inconsistent and difficult to document. They involved sleep disruption, disorientation, headaches, and anxiety without clear cause. No plumbing issues. No electrical failures. No signs of infestation. Daniel began logging these complaints out of habit rather than concern. He noticed that guests in room 27 often requested late checkouts, then left abruptly. Some returned their keys without speaking. Others lingered in the parking lot as if unsure where to go next. One guest asked Daniel whether the room was still occupied after checking out. Daniel reported these patterns to management. They dismissed them. The Silvercrest operated on thin margins. Room 27 was not removed from rotation. In the summer of 2018, a traveling nurse named Alicia Moreno stayed in room 27 for 4 consecutive nights while covering a temporary hospital shift. She was accustomed to long hours, poor sleep, and unfamiliar accommodations. On her 3rd night, she called the front desk at 3:17 a.m. and asked if the motel had a carbon monoxide leak. Daniel checked the monitors. No alarms had triggered. He followed protocol and offered to move her to another room. She declined. The next morning, Alicia did not check out. Housekeeping found her sitting on the bed, fully dressed, staring at the wall. She did not respond when spoken to. Her pulse was elevated. She was breathing normally. She appeared aware but unreachable. Paramedics transported her to the hospital. She was diagnosed with acute dissociative psychosis. When questioned later, Alicia described the room as compressing inward at night. She believed the walls were narrowing the space, not physically, but perceptually. She said time inside the room felt uneven. She described losing the ability to determine whether her eyes were open or closed. Hospital staff attributed her condition to exhaustion. Daniel asked management to take room 27 offline. They refused. The turning point came in November of that year. A man named Victor Hale checked into room 27 after his flight was canceled due to weather. He was a civil engineer, sober, organized, and traveling for work. His stay was meant to last one night. He never checked out. Daniel noticed Victor's truck still parked outside the room the following afternoon. Housekeeping knocked repeatedly without response. The door was opened using a master key. Victor was found standing in the bathroom, fully clothed, facing the mirror. He had not moved for an extended period. The air in the room was cold despite the heater being on. The mirror showed signs of condensation, though the room itself was dry. Victor was alive. He was hospitalized for nearly 6 weeks. Medical evaluations found no drugs, no toxins, no neurological damage. Victor eventually spoke, but his statements were fragmented and cyclical. He described the room as observing him. He believed the space itself had awareness, not intelligence, but function. He said the room adjusted when he thought, changing his perception until his thoughts no longer felt like his own. Victor never returned to work. An internal investigation followed. Room 27 passed every inspection. The walls were solid. The wiring was correct. The air quality tested clean. No mold, no gas leaks, no environmental hazards. The room was declared safe. It was put back into service. Daniel began avoiding it. He altered assignments when possible, steering guests away without explanation. When forced to rent it out during high occupancy, he experienced anxiety disproportionate to the task. He began having trouble sleeping during his off hours, replaying interactions with guests who had stayed there. He started reviewing past records. Patterns emerged. Length of stay mattered. 1 night produced discomfort. 2 nights caused disorientation. 3 or more resulted in cognitive impairment severe enough to require intervention. Daniel stopped logging complaints. He began documenting privately. Room 27 remained occupied, and the motel continued operating. Daniel Price stopped thinking of room 27 as a problem and began thinking of it as a process. Problems implied solutions. Processes implied continuation. What unsettled him most was not that the room harmed people, but that it did so predictably, following a progression that repeated regardless of who occupied it. He began correlating incidents with time. Guests who stayed a single night reported mild symptoms: headaches, restlessness, the sense of being watched without fear. 2 nights produced confusion, memory gaps, emotional flattening. 3 nights or more resulted in psychological fractures that medical professionals could not easily categorize. Daniel suspected environmental influence, but not one that inspections were designed to detect. Whatever the room was doing, it did not rely on chemicals, sound, or structural defects. It operated on perception. Daniel's own exposure remained limited. He entered the room only briefly, never staying longer than necessary. Even so, he noticed subtle effects. The longer he stood inside, the harder it became to track time. His thoughts felt slightly delayed, as though his mind needed to confirm its own position before moving forward. The sensation disappeared when he stepped outside. In late January, a winter storm stranded several travelers in Ely. The Silver Crest reached full occupancy for the first time in years. Room 27 was assigned without Daniel's involvement. The guest was a woman named Renee Whitaker, a sales representative traveling alone. She checked in late, exhausted, polite, and unconcerned. Daniel watched her walk to the room, then felt a familiar unease settle into his chest. By the second night, Renee requested an extension due to road closures. Daniel hesitated before approving it. He considered offering a room change but stopped himself. Management scrutiny had increased after Victor Hale's hospitalization. Any unusual accommodation requests required explanation. Renee stayed. On the third night, Daniel noticed Renee's car idling in the parking lot at 2:40 a.m. She remained inside, unmoving, headlights off. When Daniel approached to check on her, she drove away without acknowledgement, returning an hour later and walking back to room 27 as if nothing had happened. The following morning, Renee did not respond to checkout reminders. Daniel entered the room with a master key. Renee was seated on the floor beside the bed, knees drawn to her chest. Her eyes were open. She was breathing steadily. She did not acknowledge Daniel's presence. Emergency services were called. Renee survived. She was diagnosed with acute stress disorder. Her company terminated her contract weeks later after repeated cognitive lapses. She attempted to sue the motel, but her case was dismissed due to lack of evidence. Daniel realized then that the room did not simply disturb people. It altered their ability to advocate for themselves afterward. Whatever damage occurred inside room 27 did not leave visible marks. It eroded credibility. He resigned 2 weeks later. Before leaving, Daniel copied years of maintenance logs, incident reports, and occupancy records. He highlighted room 27 and its occupants. The pattern was undeniable. He submitted the documentation anonymously to county health officials. The response was delayed. By the time inspectors arrived, the motel had changed ownership. The new owners renovated superficially. New paint, new furniture, new signage. Room numbers were reassigned. Room 27 became room 31. The process continued. Reports surfaced sporadically. A long-haul driver hospitalized after hallucinations. A couple separated after shared delusions they could not reconcile. A man found wandering the desert miles from the motel, dehydrated and incoherent. Each incident stood alone. Years passed. Daniel moved out of state. He followed developments remotely, checking news reports, legal filings, and online reviews. The reviews mentioning mental distress disappeared over time, flagged or dismissed as unreliable. The motel maintained plausible deniability through consistency. The room did not need secrecy. It needed turnover. In 2022, a state-funded inspection finally identified something unusual. Subtle inconsistencies in spatial perception measurements within the room. Minor deviations in sound reflection timing. Irregularities so slight they could not justify closure. The report recommended further study. Before it could happen, a guest died. The death was ruled a suicide. A man named Thomas Kearns, staying alone for 4 nights, was found unresponsive in the bathroom. No note. No prior history. Surveillance showed him entering the room and never leaving. Daniel read the article twice. He recognized the timeline. Public attention followed briefly, then faded. The motel closed temporarily, then reopened. Room 31 was sealed permanently, not condemned, just unused. Months later, the building was demolished to make way for a truck stop expansion. During demolition, workers reported difficulty dismantling the sealed room. Not structural resistance, but confusion. Measurements failed to align. Walls appeared longer inside than outside. The space resisted simplification. Eventually, it was destroyed. Afterward, the site felt different. Workers described headaches that vanished once the foundation was cleared. No further incidents were reported. Daniel never felt relief. He understood then that the room had not been broken. It had been fulfilled. The room did not want attention. It did not want belief. It required only function. A place designed for temporary occupancy, repeated isolation, and surrender of control. A perfect environment for gradual psychological realignment. The guests were not victims in the traditional sense. They were adjustments. Room 27 did not drive people insane. It removed what anchored them. And once it no longer existed, the process ended. Silently. Some places don't need ghosts, violence, or legends to destroy people. They only need time, isolation, and repetition. If this story unsettled you, subscribe for more true horror stories rooted in real environments and real psychological collapse.